giving us this VR video to be able to view the 360 either with an actual VR headset, or you can just press and drag to navigate around with the mouse cursor as well. VR, or virtual reality, creating a bit more engaging or interactive contents that the user can perhaps take them out on a virtual tour. You can use it for some type of gaming perhaps, or just a bit more interactive content. So, choosing to create VR environment. Let's create new VR master first. And here we're able to choose our size all the way down from 512 times 512 up to 4K. Then we got the frame rates anywhere from 8 to 60 FPS. And we can also set the duration of the new composition. And the create VR master sets up the first scene, while the generate VR output is for our very final move when the scene is actually complete before the very final rendering. A few options down here for the camera settings. We got the default to just be using the 2-node camera, and we can also add on 3D null camera control, letting us control or move the so-called skybox camera a little bit better and easier, while the center camera will align it in the middle. Under advanced settings, we're ticking the I am using 3D plugins. If using, for example, Element 3D, Cinema 4D, or just any type of direct 3D plugins. We have the use edge blending, also something for plugins, but only for those that's not true 3D plugins. I will open a previously created project using a 2-node camera and 3D null. In this project, we have the same VR master cam controller as the 3D null and VR master camera. The camera layer has the normal transform properties and the normal camera options. With the null, there's a few more transform plus material options. And I made a basic position and set rotation with linear keyframes for ranging for 10 seconds. I kept them linear to just create a little bit of kind of floating feeling, as you are kind of floating with the same speed the whole time. Camera position is zooming in while it also rotates 180 degrees. The box around the 4 seconds is a comp that I created using 6 shape layers with 30 pixel strokes, where I just rotated the Y and the X axis to match them together to create this box of the 6 shape layers, and also move the very front layer a little bit to the very beginning of the screen, or to the very front of the screen, if you will. Then just added a little bit of glow to it all. Added the whole comp inside the timeline over here. Animated the rotation for 360 degrees in total. Plus added the camera lens blur effect using just the default settings and adjusting or keyframing the blur radius a little bit to somewhat matching the camera movement. Moving on with all the text layers, I just added an Afterglow custom preset, plus a wiggle expression for the V and R, make them flicker a little bit. And then finally the same camera lens blur on these ones as well. I added a small perception of 3D by using layer styles and just the default settings for the bevel and emboss, keeping it a little bit more basic instead of actually going into the advanced 3D or within the Cinema 4D to to do the 3D work. Environment layer has the effect of the fractal noise, the levels, the tritone, and an extra glow. Whereas two solids with a grid at the top and bottom. Plus, there's a glow and just a default 4-color gradient effect on it. Finally, I added some fire embers footage on each side and adjusting these a little bit and all others also in 3D space, plus masking out the very sides of the fire. And changing the blend mode to add. Overall here, my goal was to keep it just as basic and simple as possible using only 2D material and making the perception of being in a 3D space with it to just keep it a bit more simple and don't go way too crazy on the effects if you don't need to. Otherwise, you might end up as what I did. Created a 10-second video and I just needed to rendering this for several hours. So it takes a lot of render power and a lot of machinery to get the rendering going with 4K footage with just a lot of effects on it. And just as soon as the scene is ready, head back to the VR and create a VR environment. Now we want to create VR from current composition. We want to find our VR master composition, then add or mark everything, including the settings, and finally generate VR output, now giving us this new composition ready to render. This VR conversion comp includes a VR converter with our input currently set to the cube map PANU 2 VR 322. But having all these options as well, depending on what type of input you have. The output I use was the equi-rectangular 2:1, but possibly this can be changed to any type of other depending on your needs. You can adjust output frame width. There's an grayed out field of view, and we might also reorient camera view if needed before you do the actual rendering. And next up, we're heading into this newly created VR conversion comp. We got 6 different camera views that are created as a type of cube from each direction, and together they're building up the actual virtual reality space or the 360 view. To be able to render all this, we have the option of adding it to the render queue, but however though, this option only lets us render with the actual VR options marked for the H.264 in a very compressed quality. So possibly we might raising the bitrate a little bit, but still just giving this very low type of quality. So this one here is just a quick preview of what that can actually look like in the very lowest quality settings. As we probably don't want that type of quality, I guess. So we actually have a little bit of rescue or a bit of a saver here, and that is the Adobe Media Encoder in this case. So if we're going in there, we actually have the options to change or choose between a whole lot of bunch of different type of higher quality output formats that we can match our high quality input with a little bit better. So that is just the way to go at least here in this VR environment. So I will actually render mine in QuickTime Apple ProRes 4444XQ. Although, yeah, slightly overkill, but then using the GPU accelerator and hit play. Wait for the renderer to finish, and once it's ready, just upload it on YouTube or whatever your choice of platform is. Now giving us this quite cool VR video to be able to view the 360 either with an actual VR headset, or you can just press and drag to navigate around with the mouse cursor as well. Bear in mind here that quality versus the file size here is of massive difference between the two different files. So this is quite a good example where you need to balance out the file versus quality a bit. As the very first one I show you, the one with the lowest quality, it's dragged down all the way to only 20 megabytes of file size, while the other one we rendered with the ProRes, the highest quality, that one goes all the way up to 40 gigabyte. So it's just a massive difference between the file size and the quality. So you need to know how to balance that out for your type of project and needs. Lastly, we may also want to perhaps extract QMap first, making us select our composition with the 360 footage, change the conversion resolution, ranging between the low to ultra, and again ticking if using any type of plugins. Now just created a new comp with a VR Master camera, plus all those 6 separated camera views in a type of cubic form as appearing if I were to swap to custom view 1 and view this. This is quite a good option whenever you want to view the VR scene from a little bit different type of angles or different point of views to just get another feeling of it. And it's also a good one if you want to do some extra, perhaps motion tracking on it, or maybe you want to do some object removals, then this is where to do that.